The docking clamps clicked into place with a metallic sigh. The transport shuttle's airlock cycled open, flooding the gangway with harsh white light. Avery Cole exhaled once, steady and controlled, before stepping into the terminal of the Varan, Dominion Military Academy, the most prestigious war institution in the galaxy. A cathedral of steel, 10 stories high, walls lined with banners symbolizing conquest, shaped from metals no human factory could weld without collapsing. Cadets from 100 alien species marched in rhythmic patterns, tails, mandibles, and scaled limbs, moving with synchronized confidence. And then there was Avery, 17, human, unarmed, the only one. He moved swiftly yet without hurry, gaze forward, posture neutral. His uniform, plain gray training fatigues, seemed painfully simple next to intricate armor plating worn by others. He knew he stood out. He just didn't care. Snickers echoed before the translator patch finished calibrating. Look, the human. That tiny thing? They sent a juvenile? A taller alien stepped into Avery's path. Thick indigo skin, wide shoulders, eyes like molten silver. Vertical slits across his arms pulsed as if breathing. His species, Varan Prime, were apex predators on 3 colonies. The cadet smirked down at Avery. So the fragile mammal arrives. His voice was smooth, amused. Rumor said Earth begged for a seat, but they sent a runt. Tell me, human, what exactly can your species do besides bleed? Avery stood perfectly still. Silence was a scalpel. Then he offered a polite smile. Hello to you too. Gasps fluttered around them. He wasn't supposed to speak like an equal. He didn't bow. He didn't flinch. He simply acknowledged the provocation and moved past. The Varan cadet stepped in front of him again, blocking the path. I did not dismiss you. Avery held his gaze, calm, unbothered. I didn't need your permission to walk. The murmurs rose into a ripple of shock. The cadet's slitted arms brightened, sign of rising aggression. Before the confrontation escalated, an instructor appeared, 8 feet tall, wearing white ceremonial armor trimmed with gold. The I crest on her chest indicated her position, Commander of Combat Evaluation. Her eyes, a shade of fractal emerald, swept over Avery. The human transfer, she said flatly. Follow. Avery walked beside her down a long corridor. The instructor didn't speak for nearly a full minute. When she finally broke the silence, her voice was cool and clinical. You do not understand what you have entered. This academy produces battle commanders, not diplomats. You will not survive here. Avery didn't look away from the path ahead. I didn't come to survive. She paused. I came to earn my place. They arrived at Assessment Hall 1, a cavernous arena lit by overhead beams. A crowd of cadets filled the observation platforms, craning for a view. The air hummed with anticipation. On the floor, rows of testing modules waited. Gravity resistance, track reflex scanning sensors, strength-based impact pylons. The instructor gestured toward an empty lane. You will undergo physical aptitude testing. Your results will be displayed to all. Of course, they wanted a spectacle. Avery stepped into the lane, rolled his shoulders once, and prepared. The first test began. Reaction speed. A hovering drone emitted random directional flashes. Cadets were to hit a sensor pad in response. Most slapped at the targets with speed powered by muscle and mass. Avery watched one Varan cadet nearly tear the panel apart. When his turn came, he didn't smash. He tapped, each movement precise, fast, minimal. The screen printed scores. 11 seconds reaction time. A quiet murmur spread. Second test, strength. Hit the impact pylon. Alien struck with violent force. Plates dented. Sensors shrieked. Pride radiated off them. Avery approached, set his palm on the pylon as if feeling its temperature, then struck. A compact, controlled blow. Solid, accurate. The numbers appeared. Average aliens laughed. See? Soft. Weak. Avery said nothing. He made his notes silently. Their strength was raw, unfocused, telegraphed. The instructor scribbled on her data pad without expression. Next, multi-gravity balance track. The track shifted gravitational fields unpredictably as cadets ran. Several huge species excelled by sheer muscle strength. One large insectoid stomped through confidently, plates rattling like armor. Avery entered the track, inhaled once, and ran, not with force but with precision. When the gravity surged, he lowered his center. When it dropped, he shortened his stride. His movements were clean, adaptive, not flashy, just efficient. He reached the end with minimal energy loss. A few aliens frowned now. Their laughter faded. They expected spectacle. They got calculation. Lunch period followed. The cafeteria was a massive ring overlooking the training arena. Avery selected an empty table. A tray of nutrient rations sat untouched as he analyzed the movement patterns of cadets below. The same indigo-skinned Varan from earlier, K.L. Thix, approached with two others, each towering over Avery. Their plates thudded onto his table. K.L. Thix leaned forward, voice soft with mock pity. It must be exhausting, pretending not to tremble. Avery didn't glance up. "I'm not pretending." The table shook as K.L. Thix slammed his palm down. "You embarrass yourself. Show some respect." Avery finally met his gaze, calm, focused. Respect is earned, not demanded. K.L. Thix's jaw flexed. The two aliens flanking him shifted eagerly, ready to pin the human to the floor for entertainment. The cafeteria quieted. Cadets watched like predators sensing prey. Avery stood slowly, gathering his tray with steady hands. He didn't raise his voice, but the words landed heavy. Strength speaks. Power whispers. K.L. Thix froze, unable to process the lack of fear. Avery walked away. That night, while others slept, Avery stood in his room, a small cube with no windows. Flooring of cold alloy, no personal comforts, exactly how he liked it. He moved through a sequence of motions, angled foot placement, balance shifts, muscle tension control. Barely perceptible movements, but precise enough to disable someone 3 times his size. Human martial science wasn't born from dominance. It was born from necessity. He pressed fingertips to the screen beside his bunk and read tomorrow's schedule. Live Combat Reflex Trial. Opponents chosen at random. 3 words in bold. 1 strike allowed. He could feel the Academy's intent. Humiliate. The human. Prove a point. Send him home. Avery closed the notification and turned off the lights. Darkness settled. He breathed in, slow, measured. Not fear. Preparation. Tomorrow they would learn that humans were not weak. They were underestimated. The combat arena hummed with a low mechanical resonance, the kind that crawled beneath the ribcage. Thousands of cadets filled the observation balconies, a layered ring of bodies and armor. The lighting shifted to harsh crimson, washing every face in anticipation of violence. Avery stood at the center of the arena floor. No armor, no weapon, only his breath and discipline. Holographic script displayed his name overhead in stark white. Text: Avery Cole, human transferon. The opposite side, the arena doors opened. K.L. Thix strode in, armored in ceremonial combat plating. Indigo skin glistened beneath the lights. The crowd cheered his presence like war incarnate. He held a training baton, a weapon capable of knocking out larger species with a single strike. Lightning danced along its edge. Avery didn't blink. The instructor descended from the command booth and stepped between them. Her voice carried through the arena, amplified by the comm system. This trial will evaluate instinct, speed, and reaction. 1 strike ends the match. Whoever lands first wins. No lethal force. K.L. Thix smirked. Lethal force is relative. Avery kept his tone neutral. You assume you're faster? The Varan tilted his head, amused. I don't assume. I know. The instructor raised her arm. Ready. Avery's heartbeat slowed. Begin. Second, 0.0, 0.5 K.L. Thix lunged first. Predictable. He aimed high, baton swinging for Avery's temple. A strike that depended on size, not precision. Avery's body reacted before conscious thought. Feet angled. Weight shifted. Kael'thix's baton slashed air instead of bone. Second, one Avery stepped inside the Varan's stance, closer than comfort allowed, wrist brushing against Kael'thix's plated arm. He didn't block. He redirected. Kael'thix blinked, confused that the human was suddenly behind him. What? Second 3 Avery locked onto Kael'thix's elbow joint, applying pressure at a rotational angle. The Varan's body twisted involuntarily. The only possible reaction reflex, a hiss of pain, escaped him. Not loud, not dramatic, just shock. Second 4 Avery swept his leg, destabilizing the Varan's center of gravity. Bigger bodies fall harder. He used momentum, not force. Kael'thix slammed to one knee. Gasps rippled across the balconies. The instructor leaned forward, jaw tightening. She hadn't expected this. Second 6 Avery plucked the baton free using minimal pressure on the leverage point near Kael'thix's thumb. Not ripped. Not rested, taken, clean, efficient. The weapon hissed in Avery's hand. Kael'thix looked up, breathing sharp and shallow. How? Avery didn't answer. He didn't have to. Second 8 Kael'thix reached to stand, fury replacing surprise. His breath fractured into a growl. Avery shifted his weight. One decisive movement. He placed the electrified baton gently against the Varan's throat, just enough to prove victory. No theatrics, no flourish, just inevitability. Second 10. The arena went silent. Not quiet. Silent. The crowd stared. The instructor forgot to signal the end of match. Even Kael'thix stopped breathing for a heartbeat, unable to compute the sequence of events that dismantled him. Avery leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper. You measured muscle. Kael'thix's pupils widened. You should have measured will. The instructor finally reacted, raising her hand. Match over. Her voice cracked. Avery Cole, winner. The arena erupted. Not with cheers, with disbelief. He didn't even hit him. He just moved. What kind of species fights like that? Kael'thix rose slowly, jaw clenched, staring at the baton now held by the human who had been labeled unfit only yesterday. His voice shook, unguarded, raw. You allowed me to strike first. Avery lowered the baton to the floor carefully, as if returning something borrowed. I wanted to learn your rhythms. You used yourself as bait? I used your certainty. No arrogance, just fact. The instructor stepped toward Avery, her face unreadable. No cadet has ever dismantled a Varan on their first reflex trial. Avery shrugged lightly. I didn't dismantle him. He glanced at Kael'thix. He dismantled himself. The instructor stared at him, studying, recalibrating her. Entire understanding of human capability. This. Academy doesn't underestimate cadets, she said. Avery met her gaze without flinching. It underestimates humans. Kael'thix stood perfectly still, not defeated, shattered. His entire life had been built on unquestioned dominance. He finally asked, voice low, what are humans? Avery didn't hesitate. A species that adapts. The instructor gestured toward the exit. Cole, you are excused. He turned to leave, feeling eyes track every step. The corridor greeted him with sterile lighting. His breathing stayed steady, though muscles trembled from adrenaline, not fear. He exhaled slowly. Control. Always control. Footsteps behind him. Kael'thix. Avery didn't turn. You want another match? No. The Varan stopped at his side, voice stripped of ego. I want to understand. Avery looked up. For the first time, Kael'thix didn't loom. He simply stood there, curious, uncertain. You planned those movements. No, Avery said. I trained for chaos. Kael'thix blinked once, slowly, and you would have broken my arm. Avery didn't soften the truth. If that was required, Kael'thix considered the response. He wasn't used to honesty without malice. You fight differently than any species here. Avery slid his hands into his pockets. Humans fight to end the fight, and if ending means killing, Avery walked past him. If someone leaves me no other choice, then they made their choice first. Kyle Thix watched him disappear into the hallway, uncertainty echoing in the empty space left behind. A new rumor began circulating through the academy. Not human lost in 10 seconds, not human escaped, but human finished it in 10 and no one laughed anymore. The academy halls were never quiet. Hovering monitors rattled with training schedules, announcements, and names of those who succeeded or failed. Cadets sprinted between modules, drills and alarms echoing off polished alloy walls. Yet today, as Avery walked, the noise thinned in pockets around him, like silence traveling with him. He wasn't sure which he noticed first, their stares or their caution. Alien cadets who mocked him yesterday now pulled aside, leaving a clear path. Not from respect, fear. Avery didn't care for either. He walked with steady steps and an unreadable expression, scanning the day's announcement board. His name was nowhere, but Kyle Thix's was, highlighted in bright crimson. Cadet Kyle Thix Draven requests formal honor duel against Avery Cole, human. The word honor duel carried weight. It wasn't a trial. It wasn't practice. It was a right that demanded one outcome. Total submission. Avery skimmed the details. Authorized by the Academy Council. Live broadcast to all training sectors. Outcome enters permanent record. Consequences. Permanent ones. Behind him, someone cleared their throat. The most hesitant throat clearance Avery had heard in days. A small figure stood there. 6 limbs. 2 eyes too large for its head, skin a soft copper sheen. A young cadet, insectoid and nervous. I would like to say something. Its mandibles clicked in agitation. That Varen wishes to destroy you. Not physically, reputation, Avery nodded. I know. You should refuse, the creature whispered. He will not stop before he breaks something in you. Avery considered that. Fear isn't new to humans. The cadet blinked. You are not afraid. Avery adjusted the strap of his pack. There's a difference between fear and hesitation. The cadet hesitated. You could die. Avery started walking again. Everyone dies. Not everyone chooses when. Briefing chamber. The instructor, Commander Sierra, waited inside, posture crisp, expression tight. Her eyes flicked to the datapad she held. You have seen the duel request. Yes. You understand the terms? Yes. You can refuse. Avery raised his head. You didn't think I would. Sierra exhaled slowly. She didn't intimidate easily, but Avery's certainty unsettled her. The council wants to use you as a spectacle. If you refuse, they will spin that into proof humans are unfit for command. Avery sat, calm, feet flat to the ground. And if I accept? You embarrass a political heir, she said quietly. The Academy will not protect you afterward. Earth has no diplomatic leverage here. Avery folded his hands together. Strength speaks. Power whispers, right? For a moment, Sierra almost smiled. Almost. You remind me of the first Varen to challenge the Dominion, she said. What happened to him? He won. Arena, dual daylights dimmed across the entire station. Cadets flooded every seat and balcony. The platforms extended outward so spectators stood nearly above the combat floor. Thunderous energy vibrated through the arena, anticipation mixed with disbelief. Kyle Thix entered first, armor black and silver. His family crest gleamed on his chest. A dual spear rested across his shoulders. Each step radiated dominance. Avery entered through the opposite gate. No armor. No spear. Just a lightweight training uniform, the crowd whispered. No weapons? He's suicidal. Humans truly don't understand honor. Kyle Thix planted his spear into the ground, sending sparks across the floor. You insult the right showing up unarmed, Avery answered without bowing. You came armed because you need to win. Shock rippled through spectators. Kyle Thix snarled. This duel ends when one of us kneels. No. Avery's voice was low but firm. This ends when one of us understands. The instructor lifted her hand. Begin. Kyle Thix lunged, not reckless this time, but calculating. He thrust low, sweeping the spear to limit Avery's range. Avery vaulted over it. The crowd gasped. Kelthix didn't stop. He spun the spear, diverting motion into a vertical strike. Avery rolled aside, feeling the wind of impact brush his back. The spear cracked the alloy floor. "You will kneel," Kelthix growled. Avery didn't respond. Dialogue wasted breath. Kelthix attacked again, quick, precise, built from years of elite training. His spear flowed like fluid metal, shifting in unpredictable arcs. Avery stepped just outside reach. Not dodging, reading, aliens fought like they expected their opponent to break. Humans fought like breaking was part of the plan. Finally, Kelthix swung wide, overcommitted, momentum carrying his torso open. Avery moved. He stepped inside the arc of the spear, gripping the haft just below Kelthix's hand. With a shift of leverage, he stopped the movement and pressed his shoulder into Kelthix's center mass. The Varren staggered. A roar spread from the balconies. Kelthix tried again, faster. The spear sliced, a blur of deadly precision. Avery slipped under the blade, caught Kelthix's wrist, and rotated. Kelthix hit the ground. Hard, Avery released him and stepped back. "Get up!" Kelthix's face twisted. Anger, humiliation, denial. "You mock me. I reflect you." Kelthix charged wildly this time, pride gone. He rammed Avery, throwing him back. Pain pulsed through Avery's ribs as he hit the ground. Kelthix pinned him, hand gripping Avery's throat. "You are nothing," Kelthix hissed. Weak. Soft. Avery didn't fight back instantly. He stared into the Varren's eyes. "You mistake restraint for weakness." Then he moved, a small shift. A pivot of weight. Avery trapped Kelthix's elbow between his knees and twisted. Kelthix's grip faltered. Avery reversed positions, pressing Kelthix face first to the ground. One knee on his spine. Kelthix gasped into the floor. "Finish it." The arena stilled. Every species watched. Avery loosened his hold, not releasing completely, but allowing Kelthix to breathe. "No." Kelthix blinked in confusion. "No," he echoed. Avery stepped back, letting him rise slowly. "You think kneeling proves strength or weakness," Avery said. "You cannot understand humans because you think victory means dominance." Kelthix knelt. On purpose, the arena inhaled at once. He lowered his weapon and placed it at Avery's feet. "I kneel," he said quietly. "Not because I lost, but because I learned." Avery's throat tightened, not from pride, but realization. The arena didn't cheer. They bowed their heads. For the first time in Academy history, a Varren acknowledged a human. Commander Sierra descended the stairs, expression fierce with something close to awe. "Cadet Avery Cole," she announced, voice amplified through every sector. "By council ruling, demonstration of strategic superiority, and emotional restraint," she paused. "You are assigned to the Elite Command Program." Avery exhaled, slow. "Steady." Kelthix stood beside him, shoulders squared. "What now?" he asked. Avery looked out over the arena, every species watching. "Now," Avery said softly, "we teach them what humans are." The day after the duel, the Academy's atmosphere shifted, not toward applause, not toward celebration, rather, a collective reorientation. Avery felt it in the way eyes followed his movements. No longer mocking, no longer curious, assessing, wordless calculation of a predator they had failed to recognize. He headed toward the Strategic Command Wing, the restricted sector newly opened to him after the Council's ruling. A thin pulse of yellow light scanned him as he entered a chamber filled with holographic galaxy maps and tactical projection tables. Commander Sierra stood alone, studying a star field. "You're late," she said without looking at him. "I'm 2 minutes early." "You're late," she repeated, as though time bent to military expectation. Avery stepped beside her. "The projection showed a cluster of star systems near the Dominion's border. What am I looking at?" "War," Sierra replied. "Or what will become war when politicians finish pretending they still have options," she gestured, adjusting the projection. Red symbols bloomed. Enemy fleets. The Varren Dominion is preparing for large-scale conflict. And now, because you embarrassed a noble heir, her voice lowered. Humans are being invited to the strategic table. Avery studied the map. "Invited," he echoed. or used? Sierra's expression revealed nothing. Depends on who writes the history. Tactical simulation room. The door hissed open to reveal a circular chamber. Hollow walls displayed real combat footage. Ships burning, battle formations pivoting, civilian vessels fleeing. A group of elite cadets waited, including Cale Thix. He stood straighter than before. But something about him was different. Not submission. Awareness. A squared acknowledgement. The others reacted as expected. That's the human. He doesn't belong here. He got lucky once. Avery ignored them. He took a seat. On the central console, instructions appeared. Simulation. Objective. Defend colony. Sigma 9 against fleet incursion. Cale Thix glanced toward Avery. These simulations break seasoned officers. Avery adjusted the display. Maybe they think like officers. Cale Thix blinked. How do you think? Like someone who can't afford to lose. The lead strategist, a four-eyed reptilian, activated the timer. Begin. Minute 1. Observation. Projection flickered to life. Enemy ships warping into the system. Colony stations scrambling their shields. Cadets immediately threw out. Strategies. Move defense ships to intercept. Commit reserve. Fleets. Deploy heavy artillery. Avery watched silently. They were moving pieces. He was watching behavior. Human, the reptilian strategist snapped. You have no input? Avery answered without looking up. I'm learning their pattern. Cale Thix leaned closer. You aren't reacting. I am. Just not visibly. Minute 2. Pattern recognition. Avery adjusted the perspective. Enemy ships didn't follow typical assault arcs. They created chaos, pulling defenders out of position one wave at a time. See that? Avery pointed. They're forcing you to chase movement. When you chase, you react. When you react, you lose. The room fell silent. Cale Thix whispered, What do you suggest? Avery marked a point far from the colony. Withdraw half our fleet here. The reptilian strategist balked. Withdraw? Away from the objective? Yes. That's cowardice. Avery didn't raise his voice. It's bait. Minute 3, execution. The simulated defense fleet shifted into Avery's formation. Half pulled away, feigning panic. The enemy tracked them, exactly as predicted. They think we're fleeing, Avery said. And when their pursuit stretches their formation thin, Cale Thix added, eyes brightening. We strike where they can't reinforce. Avery nodded once. The reptilian stared at the simulation in disbelief. You saw that developing before the battle began. No, Avery said simply. I assumed they'd behave like people desperate to win. Minute 4, victory. The simulation ended in a single decisive maneuver. Enemy fleet destroyed. Colony preserved. Friendly losses minimal. A notification pulsed across the projection. Simulation complete, record performance. The reptilian cleared his throat. That strategy is irrational. Avery lifted his eyes to him. No, it's human. Afterward, training deck, outside the simulation chamber, cadets scattered, whispering. Cale Thix fell in step beside Avery. You think differently? Avery shrugged. Humans had to. How do you mean? We evolved as prey before we became predators. We survived by reading intent, predicting danger, adapting to what wanted us gone. Cale Thix considered that. You don't see threats. You see opportunities. Avery didn't answer immediately. We see consequences. Cale Thix stopped walking. One day, I want to reach the level where you don't have to pull your strikes. You'll get there. You believe that? Avery met his eyes. I wouldn't waste time teaching someone who couldn't learn. Cale Thix bowed, not performative, genuine gratitude. Later, observation deck, Night Cycle Avery stood alone, watching the starfield beyond the glass. Space stretched endless, beautiful, indifferent. A shadow approached, Commander Sierra. You've changed the Academy's momentum, she said. Avery didn't turn. No, I shifted perception. Momentum changes only when people act, Sierra crossed her arms. You know what I saw today? Cadets stopped evaluating what you are. They started listening to what you say. Avery breathed out slowly. The weight of expectation pressed against him. "I didn't come to lead," he said quietly. "Then why did you come?" Avery's answer was soft, almost private. "Humans are always told what we can't be. I came to find what we could become." Sarah regarded him with rare gentleness. "You didn't just win a duel," she said. "You rewrote who gets to try." Final scene, Great Hall The. Council awaited at the center dais. Inscribed into the ground were 3 words in ancient. Varan script, only the worthy rise a hush fell as Avery approached. Every cadet in attendance, thousands, stood watching. Sarah spoke first. Cadet Avery Cole, in defiance of prejudice, in mastery of restraint, in demonstration of strategy beyond expectation, she raised her hand. "You are now permitted access to Fleet Command training." Gasps echoed from the balconies. Kael'thix stepped forward, holding something wrapped in cloth. He unfolded it, a crest, hand-forged metal, not human, not Varan, a symbol representing unity. He kneeled, not as a subordinate, but as someone who had made peace with change. "I do not kneel in defeat," he said. "I kneel because some paths require humility before they can be walked." Avery placed a hand on his shoulder. "Stand," he said. "Walk beside me." Kael'thix rose, not dominance. Partnership. Aliens across the hall bowed, not to obey, but to acknowledge. For the first time in the Academy's history, a human led the way.